question into the chat box, and Nikhil ji will be taking the questions at the end of the session. Yeah, please, Nikhil ji. Everything is perfectly fine. Please go ahead.
Okay, so hello and good evening, good afternoon, good morning, because I think we have a lot of people from a lot of demographies. So thank you for joining this session. And as you can see on the screen, it is all about the email security and things we do to keep our emails secure from cyber threats. So we all know, right? Like in our day-to-day life, almost all of us rely on mobile phones for communication. And when it comes to the official communications or like registering into third party services, we use email or mobile as a communication device. So that brings us to like a whole plethora of threats that can actually come and compromise our email security. So in this particular session, we are going to look at all the cyber threats as far as the email security is concerned. And then we are going to slowly deep dive into all the offensive techniques used by hackers for compromising users and successfully executing phishing attacks. So, as you guys already know, I am the CEO of Pivot Security. We are an offensive R&D company, which means that most of our work goes into studying adversities and finding out the techniques that they have used to compromise real world entities. And then we try to help our clients as well as the community to better address those challenges. And then we also keep ourselves bleeding edge with the techniques, so that keeps us and our threat intelligence platform, phishing simulation, and all the frameworks that we develop and use within our engagements with our clients and so and forth, cutting edge. And these are the three pillars as far as our work or our company culture is concerned. The first is we try to, the whole aim is to defend the assets, defend the digital assets, whatever the assets a company has, we try to go for a defense. And then how do we do it? By timely detecting those anomalies. So before a threat can enter, there are multiple phases of detection that you have to look at. And that is the only way you can actually respond to those threats. So that is the second pillar of our assessments or our company. And then there is the need to disrupt those excesses. For example, there is a breach that has happened. The first thing is to uh, prevent that breach to actually escalate to a level wherein more damage could be caused from hackers. So that is the third pillar to which we work upon. So most of our work goes to rigorous R&D, which means that we put a lot of efforts into research, and then we look at the threats, we customize our solutions based upon that, and whatever you're going to see is actually the outcome of what we have developed within our company as a product or as a service that we deliver to a lot of our prestigious clients. Okay, so this was all about the introduction about me and the company. And I've already told you, like in this particular session, we are going to deep dive into the email security part of it. And then we are slowly, gradually, we are going to go and touch upon the topics on how to actually breach those email securities, how hackers actually breach those email securities. And as you can see, this is a multi-layer defense system that is presented over here. So in order to actually compromise an email security, there has to be a level of sophistication that has to be involved. And by email security, what do we mean? So the first thing is we have to understand what exactly is email security. So it is the protection mechanism that is there. I'm going to very simply define it. It is not an official definition for sure, but it is something that can be grasped by everyone. So it is the set of measures or the standards that if you want to communicate using an email protocol to a sender wants to communicate to a recipient, these are the standards that it needs to follow in order to have a safer communication. And it has multiple layers to it. For example, like how your email is going from a network to a different network, how exactly you are verifying the identity of the sender, how the SMTP relay, which is basically the protocol that actually takes your email that you have written to the inbox of the other recipient, to which you have written your email. So these are the protocols that keeps in check like the delivery as well as the CIA, like confidentiality, integrity, and the availability. So that whatever I have written, for example, and I want you to read it, it does not get mismatched during transit or at the end consumption. So these are all the sets of security measures that we need to provide just to keep that data secure. Whatever the communication that we are going to do using email protocol, it has to be secure. So we can understand it in different levels, starting from the email that you want to create. Then there will be a technology that actually takes that data, puts encryption into it, and then it verifies the sender that you want to send. And based upon those informations, it actually takes your message and then it transits it over to the mailbox of the recipient or the receiving party. So there are multiple authentication mechanisms to it. There are multiple ways to check whether the email is sent properly or not. And there are three major pillars which we call the authenticators in the email security. The first is the SPF, which is Sender's Policy Framework. Then we have DKIM and DMARC. So all of this works together just to make sure that the delivery is from end to end, it is fine. So we are going to look at all of these authentication mechanisms, and then we are going to look at the email secure gateways. So these are the gateways which checks once you get an email on your inbox, they check for the anomaly. For example, if the hacker has set up everything rightly, it has also configured its DMARC, DKIM, and SPF, and now he is able to actually bypass the spam mechanism, like the mechanism which the for example, if you're using Gmail, you might notice that sometimes your emails, like the emails that have got into your mailbox, some of them actually lands into the spam folder. It is because the filters actually are able to preserve your inbox, and it warns you, like whatever the email that you are going to see in the spam folder, it might be a phishing or a unsuspected email that you should not trust. So if a hacker is able to bypass all of those protections, this is the last point of defense wherein they actually go and check for like what is the sender who actually sent it, what kind of email attachment is there, what is the URL to which the user might be redirect to once he clicks on that link, he or she clicks on that link. So all of these decision making comes under the checking part of it. So we are going to touch all of these defense in depth for email security, and then we are going to see how hackers actually abuse uh, these features to land into your inbox. And that would be the conclusion of this particular email security assessment and training. Okay, so what are the components to email security? So I have covered the three most important components of email security. There could be other components as well, and I would encourage you to look more into the topic. But the three pillars that I can tell you for sure is the encryption and authentication. That is the first. Then we have spam filtering mechanism and anti-phishing technique, and then we have threat detection mechanism. So we are going to see one by one what does it mean, what protocols it has, and how the whole three pillars work together to keep your mailbox secure. So the first thing is encryption and authentication. So what do we mean by encryption? So encryption is basically protecting the data that you are sending, and it is making sure that whosoever has the key to decrypt it only gets the want or the algorithm to decrypt it. This is the basic need of encryption. Like if you want that nobody except you and the recipient should be able to see the data that you have transited, that is the mechanism you use to preserve the confidentiality of that data. So it can depends on various algorithms. By far email encryptions are concerned, we have two major algorithms. The first is the SMIME, This is basically a cryptography technique which gets used to encrypt your algorithms, and then it is pretty good privacy technique, which is another way to encrypt your emails through public key cryptography algorithms. So these are the two ways, like these are the standards, as you can see. Um, if you want to go for like a confidentiality during the transit, this is the overall flow how it would look like. So let's suppose you are the sender, you write an email to, let's suppose, Mr. Prashant, and you say hi sir, and it was great talking to you, and you become the sender here, and then that message actually goes to Google server. Let's suppose you're using a Gmail service. It is going to encrypt that data that you have written, and then with a public key it is going to encrypt that data and send it to Mr. Prashant's inbox. And that is wherein this decryption technique actually takes place. All of the decryption procedure takes place, like whatever you have written, it was already encrypted with a public key. Now Gmail is going to use its private key, which is a one-to-one unique key that has to be set up for each of the email communication that you did. So there will be a public key which will be associated just to encrypt your data, and then there will be a private key that only Gmail knows and nobody else, and it is going to decrypt that data. And once, and on Prashant sir's email box, you can see the decrypted form of the email that you have written, like the exact form of the messaging that you want to communicate to Prashant sir. It will be exactly same. So this is how we utilize email uh, encryption technique, and we that also makes sure that during the transit no other party was able to see the data who was not authorized to see those emails. Then we have, as I've already told you, there is an authentication mechanism also involved as far as the email delivery is concerned. So let's suppose you want to send an email to Prashant sir. Now there has to be a way for Prashant sir's email box to verify your identity, and that is a key decision making that all of these email security providers take, just to make sure that nobody can spoof an email and send it to Prashant sir, or nobody can actually do injustice to the identity of the email from which the email got received to the mailbox. And this mechanism is very much important, because it actually gives you a wholesome view of, like, if I get an email from, let's say, Barack Obama, and if all of these three authentication parameters are validating that yes, I've got the email from a legit Barack Obama at the rate gmail.com, then it has to be like these are the three pillars to which all the decision making of an email security happens. So these are the, for in simple terms, these are the protocols to verify the authenticity of the sender. And it is also a way to like prevent those spoofing and phishing attacks. If somebody wants to send an email and he's not authorized to send that email, and he wants to use techniques such as email spoofing, which is basically a technique to basically spoof the sender's email address. For example, if my email is abc at the rate gmail.com, anybody could use, if they are trying to go for a spoofing attack, they can also go for like, they might be sending from bbb at the rate gmail.com, but they can make it look like it is coming from abc.com. So these are the challenges which can be solved using DKIM, DMARC, and SPF protocols. So within the components of email security, we touched upon the email security and authentication part. Authentication part, though, is still pending. We are going to look at it. So yes. So as you can see, the first is DKIM. It is domain key identified mail. So which means that once a sender is trying to send an email, so he's going to add its own version of uh, cryptographic signature, be it a private key, that be it a public key, uh, that has to be conjuncted, that has to be added within the email. And once that email reaches to the original recipient, on that portion, this DKIM can get validated. And if that particular signature matches to the original sender's signature, then only the email is going to land on its inbox, which means that whosoever is sending that particular email has to verify, has to sign that particular email with its identity, and that has to be matched on the recipient's side. And once those confirmations are done, it actually makes sure that from where you have said that the email has come, it makes sure that yes, it identifies that the sender was uh, really someone who has those signatures. Okay. Yes, definitely. After this particular session, all those slides will be presented and will be given to you. Then the other thing is sender's policy framework. So what is this? So let's suppose there is an email configuration um, that has been set up by the original company. Let's suppose pivot, for example, pivot security. So we have our own email server, and within those email server we have notified, like we have added a service which makes sure that it tells the recipient that if you're going to get an email, you just check that originating IP of that email. If it is matches with the range that we have decided or that we have actually put on to our DNS records, like our servers will tell you, like whenever there has to be a email that is reaching to your inbox from pivot security, for example, the IP address from which the email must be sent is like this. Let's suppose it is 1.1.1.1. And if you receive, for example, you within your Gmail, you got an email from pivot security, and now your email security checks are checking that from where this email has got into this particular mailbox, and they are now able to see like it is coming from 2.2.2.2. This particular mechanism is going to flag that activity, because it is going to check with the host, which is from my company's website, and it is going to make out like what is the IP address to which the email must have got, if we are able to receive that particular email within our inbox. So if there is an anomaly to it, as soon as an anomaly gets triggered, it will notify the recipient, like it is going to notify the original recipient, like it is going to notify pivot security like there is a breach or there is a possible phishing attack that has happened. And the second thing is it is going to quarantine that particular email, because according to Gmail's policy, they are going to check each and every email from how it is originated using these characteristics, using these pillars that you can see on the screen. So within the DKIM, uh, it is going to check for the signature. Within the SPF, the IP address should be in the range that is discovered by that is already there by the original company, and then that comes the DMARC. So DMARC is, for example, now the now Gmail knows like there is a email that has been received, and this email is not able to verify its SPF as well as DKIM. Now what to do with that has to be defined within a policy. Like you have to define, if there is an email that you don't trust now within the organization, how you are going to actually manage that particular thing or manage that incident. Do you want to report it to upper management, like there is a phishing attack that is going on, or do you want to quarantine that? Do you want to forward that into a security operations center? All of these policies actually gets adjusted within the DMARC, which is domain based message authentication, reporting and conformance, which is how you want to tackle that particular email which whose identity was not confined, or it was not confirmed. So these are the three pillars to which the whole authentication takes place. The first is DKIM, which checks for the signature, and then it is sender's policy framework, which checks for the IP address, and then it is the DMARC, which actually tells what if the email is not able to validate itself, how what to do with it. I think somebody is having problem seeing my screen. Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yes, Nikhil ji, please continue. It's visible.
Okay. Okay. So the second thing, or the second component to email security, is spam filters and anti-phishing tools. So for example, let's suppose let's suppose so guys, if you have any doubt to it, just write on a message. We are going to take it later on. Okay, so the second thing that the second component of email security is is actually the spam filters. For example, there is an email that is meant to come on your inbox, but the writing of it, the grammar of it, and the email, like email is pointing for some malicious activity. It is telling you to click on this particular link, your email has been expired, now you have to revalidate yourself, or such kind of stuff, which actually creates um, human sentiments, um, uh, divergence within using those emails. So those emails has to be tackled very differently. So there are spam filters and anti-phishing tools just to make sure that whatever the email that you have got, it is actually getting filtered through a process. Like, so if let's suppose all of these three mechanisms of authentication, this can be easily bypassed. For example, let's say you want to email, let's say I have a Gmail account called nikhil@gmail.com, and your or Prashant sir's Gmail account is, for example, prashant@gmail.com. Now we communicate regularly, and let's say, and somebody wants to phish Prashant sir with the same email of mine. He will definitely not be able to do it because of these checks, because I only own that nikhil@gmail.com. And as soon as they are able to spoof my email, Gmail security is very hardened and email will never get through Prashant sir's original mailbox. But what if somebody has registered a new email? Let's suppose it is nikhils@gmail.com. Now all of these checks are automatically bypassed, because now we are using Gmail's authenticated service. We are sending the email from a legit IP address that is not marked, and we are all following the DMARC policies. So now there is a fair chance that that particular hacker who impersonated me can be able to send an email to Prashant sir. But there is a catch to it. If he is able to, if he is going to send an email to which the link looks malicious, or to which there is a content that should not be sent, for example, a LinkedIn content or maybe a Teams content that can actually do something nasty, those things can be easily detected using spam filters. And there are customizing rules to it. For example, with every vendor that you're going to look at, let's suppose somebody is using Yahoo, somebody's the other one is using Gmail, the level of security will be different, and the filtering protocols, like the rules which make sure that whether an email should land upon your mailbox or it should go to a spam folder, those rules would be different. For example, for Gmail, you cannot use, let's say, you cannot use uh, a subject that has a word LinkedIn to it, for example. But the same filtering would not be possible with the Yahoo. There would be a different set of filtering mechanisms. So this is the first thing. Like all the emails that has to be sent to the recipient, it gets filtered using spam filter protocols. They are the set of rules that checks what the email you're getting does not contain any malicious link, malicious words, and based upon that, there is a scoring that has to be done. and and then yes, if that email looks legit, definitely it is going to be on the mailbox, like the inbox, and if not, it is going to definitely land on the spam. And then there is an anti-phishing tool. Like these are the tools which will so within the anti-phishing tool, you can actually look at, for example, Barracuda. Like they have a anti-phishing tool to it. There is a another very great um, company. It's called Iron Shield. You can go and check their product. For example, if somebody is asking on the anti-phishing tools, or so there are a lot of vendors that go for like email security gateway solutions. Barracuda is one. But then there are other players. So the way they work is they will try to verify the authenticity of the email, and then they're going to go through all the emails link that was embedded within that email, all the images. They're going to perform OCR just to make out what that image contains. And yes, Zscaler definitely is one. And using those techniques within the sandbox, they are going to detect, like if there is a phishing email that could have uh, been launched, and once they are able to make out like this is a legit email, then only they are going to pass that email to that particular inbox. If not, then they are going to do a threat response to it. It might be triggering some SOC rules, and further analysis could be performed. So these are the two things. Even if you bypass the previous pillars of authentication, then we have spam filters, which are going to look at the words, the email URLs, and then we have anti-phishing tools, which are going to look at the reputational side of it. And then we have to kind of so if as a hacker we want to like land into those mailboxes, then we have to look into like the words that does not trigger spam filter, and definitely does not uh, we have to place some anti-analysis techniques so that these phishing tools cannot kind of detect whether the URLs are malicious or not. And there are multiple ways to it. So I've talked in much detail into our blogs, like how to actually go and bypass those protections. So if somebody wants to look at it, they can check our blogs. Okay, so these are the two things, and then we have threat detection mechanism. So what if now we know that this particular email that we have got could be a phishing email? Then what can we exactly do? So in that particular thing, so whenever we are going to respond to an email threat, the first thing is we have to quarantine all those emails that might be. So for example, let's suppose we have encountered some email, and we know that this email is a phishing email. So the first thing that we are going to do is we are going to quarantine that particular email and the sender's email addresses, all of it, from all the inboxes. That is the first thing that we are going to do. And then it has to be sent through a security operations center, or I would say that there has to be an automated way to detect those anomalies. Like they have to kind of extract the indication of compromises based upon the wordings, the sender's identity, the IP address from which the emails got sent, and all of those identification protocols and mechanisms, just to make sure that they are able to gather all those emails that might have passed and and are on those mailboxes. So there will be there should be, based upon that data, there has to be an auto response that should be generated, and that will make sure that even if there is a breach that could have happened, it will minimize those overall impact. And using this automated threat detection mechanism, you can actually make sure that even if there is an anomaly to it, you detect it at right time using obviously the nitty-gritties of computation and artificial intelligence. And there are like multiple ways to do it. For example, you can actually look for, you can extract those URLs, and then you can search in VirusTotal. That is going to actually give you a holistic view on running that particular URL into multiple sandboxes, and it is going to tell you like how bad shape that particular URL is. So there are multiple ways just to like go for like analyzing the content based upon like how you are going to extract the IOCs. And then yes, there has to be a multiple in like continuous integration with multiple threat intelligence platform. So there are like multiple threat intelligence platforms specific to phishing. For example, fish tank is one. And then you can actually look at other threat intelligence platform that which can actually give you a holistic view of like this is the phishing campaign which is going on, and this is how you can actually check within your mailboxes if such an email has got through. I think we have some questions. How to quarantine, like, so depends upon the solution that you have. For example, within M365, if somebody has told me like M365 is also there, so you have to actually configure on your DMARC as well as on the policy level within the spam filtering. If you're an admin, you can do that, and based upon that, it will give you like a reporting option. Like if somebody wants to quarantine those emails, there is a proper flow, or there is a proper filter to it. You can actually apply those filter into your filtering your filtering solution, and then you can no, ATP is actually advanced threat protection. It is more related to like the endpoint security. But for M365, there is their own email security that they provide within, like it is the security that they provide within their own platform, and it is kind of their version of secure email gateway. So you can configure all of these things. So what causes a mail to reversal? So there could be multiple reasons to mail, like for your mail to not go into senders like recipient's email address. The first thing is like the email that you have used might not be passing through the spam filtering. So they're getting rejected on the email gateway. The second is like the attachment that you are trying to send. It might not be allowed on the sender's domain. So then it can be deflected. And then the IP from which you are trying to send, the relay that you are going to that you are using, that is not properly configured. Your policies are not properly configured. The other parties policies are hardened. So there could be 100 possible reasons for your email to, like not going to sender's mailbox. So there could be like 100 of ways to it. Okay. So now let's go directly into like what are the email threads. We'll get back to that those questions later, guys, like how to mitigate and all, and what are the Microsoft tools that can be used in Microsoft servers on-prem. We can get back to those later. And like regarding some products information, I would suggest, like, because I'm not no salesman to Microsoft, you can directly refer to like their own guide on setting up Microsoft. It is just like any other company hosting the email security. So you guys can use your own train.exe to like look into those solutions. Okay, so what are the email threats that we need to very much look into the considerations based upon the current threat landscape? So the first is the phishing and spear phishing. So phishing is actually a method through which we actually deceive a user into doing some actions that they should not. That is the first thing. And then spear phishing is what? Once you have enough knowledge about the victim or the target, then you design custom conversations with those target, and that is where you actually focus on one-to-one communication. Like you develop some technique that is that is just there to hack one single guy, and that is Barracuda is one for anti-phishing tool. And that is the point wherein you can actually devise or take that phishing attempt into like multiple levels. So phishing is one, which is like a generic way to actually deceive user into clicking on a link, or or signing in into a portal that they should not, or downloading an application that they should not. So phishing is like a umbrella of social engineering. Like so within social engineering, phishing is actually one way to do compromise the target. And then when we come to like a concentrated version of phishing, then spear phishing is something that that is there, and its success rate is like quite something. Then there is malware distribution. So within that particular attachments that the hacker is going to use, they can use attachments that are not triggering spam filtering rules, and they are easily getting downloaded within the browser, and or through a link they can do it. And once the victim clicks on that link, the malware distribution actually gets installed, like it gets downloaded, and once the victim executed, its system gets infected. So the malware distribution system, it actually has multiple ways to do it. Email is just one. Then there are adwares, like using ads, they can actually distribute those malwares. And then there are other infections to it, like network based spreading that bombs too. So within the malware distribution, email security, email threats are like we can judge those malwares when we look at email threats. Like they use emails to distribute malwares. Then there is business email compromise. This happens a lot. Like most of the companies that that get hacked, uh, so the emails that they are going to get. So, for example, there is a company, let's say Microsoft. So let's say you are working under Microsoft, and one day you get an email from your CISO, which is like Chief Information Security Officer, like there is an update that is happening, and you are actually now concerned that yes, CISO has told me to download this particular update. Now I have to, because I have to comply with all the policies. So these tricks, like you thought that the email is from CISO, but it is not. It is the hacker who has actually impersonated and performed a business email compromise, which is a method of phishing, and he is able to enforce you into doing activities that you should not. Then we have man in the middle attack. You can go through all of it, but I'm just going to touch upon a few. It is the man in the middle attack. It is like the hacker is going to sit in between you and the original server, and whatever you are going to uh, communicate with, it is actually getting communicated with the real server, but the hacker is playing a key role in it. Like whenever you are going to type a username and password, it first goes through hacker's infrastructure, wherein he is able to see what you have typed, and the same thing it sends to the original GitHub account, for example, or the original server, and based upon the authentication mechanism that the provider provides, the hacker is able to authenticate using that username and password, as well as the authentication if there is like multi-factor authentication. So man in the middle attack is basically wherein there is a man that is actually sitting in the middle of the communication that is happening between two parties. So for example, let's say you have a Gmail account, and now you have opened a website which is definitely not www.gmail.com, but rather let's say it's a phishing.com website. So once you open that phishing.com, it will look like a gmail.com, but once you like give username and password, that same username and password would be given to Gmail's original infrastructure, and user and the hacker is going to authenticate using those parameters. Sorry. And then they are going to take access of your account. So this is by far one of the most effective technique which hackers use to hack general public. It is rather much more complex to execute because there are multiple checks that providers provide just to stop this man in the middle attack. But yes, there are bypasses which actually hackers use to bypass those mitigations. Like there are technologies which kind of detect man in the middle attack, but then yes, hackers are also utilizing bypasses to it, through which they are able to bypass multi-factor authentication and conduct successful man-in-the-middle attack. So within man-in-the-middle attack, so these are the some. So so these are so with regards to like how phishing attacks get conducted with the help of technology that is already there. We are going to touch upon some tools, and then we are going to look at how they actually work to bypass such protections. So the first thing, like, so what is advanced phishing attacks? So anything that can be automated using the tools or techniques which are already provided, and it is able to infect users in much more wider sense. That is the thing wherein we conclude that the attack that we have got, it was not an unsophisticated attack, rather it was very designed, very sophisticated, and very much into the target. So uh, these section or these class of attacks, we call them as advanced phishing attacks. So hacker utilize advanced phishing tools to craft email that bypasses email security measures. So whatever the email security measures that we have talked about earlier, if there is a tool or a framework or there is a science behind it through which hackers are able to penetrate into all those email security products, they are able to bypass those detection rules, and they are able to land the email and conduct a successful email phishing. So we are going to use look at those tools and avenues. So there are tools such as EvilJinx, Murana, and Evil Proxy. If you guys are interested, you can look at those tools. These the first these are all reverse based on reverse proxy technique. It is basically a technology that hackers use just to bypass two-factor authentication. So if somebody wants to look at those projects, they can look at it. Most of them are able to bypass multi-factor authentication. Uh, with some of them, you might not be able to bypass two-factor authentication because there are protections which are in place. But definitely, with further efforts, hackers have. So it's seen that hackers are able to bypass protections that are already in place with like some good email security email clients. Then there is social engineer tool. So it is basically social engineer toolkit that you can find within Kali. So it is a tool which can help you in launching email attacks. It is going to ask for like SMTP access, which is like you have to give your username and password for your account along with the server that you are going to use to send email. Once you give it, it is going to present you with a lot of options like what kind of attack you want. Do you want to email bomb the user, like sending him a lot of email? Do you want to use Gmail as a phishing? A lot of it. So you can use these tools to actually launch automated phishing attacks. So obviously these, if you're going to use reverse proxies such as EvilJinx, you can actually bypass SMS or authenticator based bypasses. And these are the tools which is getting used by hackers to actually give them an edge over whatever the current email security is. Then there are tools which can help you with bypassing spam filters. I would say that since these are the rules that are so spam filter is nothing but the rules that are written by humans, and then this particular rules are matched by an AI algorithm with all the emails that they have got. So it is a simple string matching thing that happens most of the time. Like there are other avenues to it, like they check for the entropy of that email, then other things. But as far as the text based spam filtering is concerned, these can be easily bypassed if the hacker wants to test that particular email service. For example, let's suppose they want to launch a mass phishing campaign with all the users that are from Gmail. Now what they can do is they can make two accounts. The one would be a testing account and the other would be the hacker's own account. Now within the testing account, they can test what are the emails that are actually been able to land onto the inbox and why the others were not landing up, and they can then forge an email that does not trigger those spam filter rules, and now they can able to they can be easily ready to send emails into the mailboxes because they know now that what are the rules that does not, like what are the email content that does not trigger spam filters. So it is basically a hidden trial that actually works into bypassing spam filters. Then anti-sandbox email technique. So within pivot security, we have an advanced phishing framework that we call Phish Eliminate. So within that, we use a lot of techniques using like we have multi-factor authentication, we have browser in the browser attack, adversary in the middle attack, and a lot of other offensive techniques that we have collaborated. And within the real world scenarios, we have seen that when we are simulating attacks on infrastructures that have like a good email security, most of the time there is a need of like providing an email that does not get flagged. So there are multiple ways to do it. The one is if you are able to front your infrastructure, be it URLs, be it the tools that you have used on the backend, it does not get exposed and it does not interact with threat intelligence platforms. For example, let's suppose there is a list of Microsoft sandboxes. So now I have blacklisted all those sandbox IPs from my filtering platform. Now, whenever the sandboxes are going to check for the email, for the URL that has got from the email, they will not be able to catch because all those traffics are now blocked. So this is like a way through which we can block those um, scanning engines or sandboxes. This is just one way of doing it. The other could be like using QR based phishing techniques. Since QR is like harder for the threat intelligence or for the email security gateways to analyze, that they can also provide us with an avenue to bypass the protections that is also there. And then the most common kind of email attack, if the receivers email security is not properly configured. Like there has been a black hat talk uh, within this year wherein there was some talk on like there was a major email security like email provider, and they were not validating DKIM, DMARC, and SPF properly. And all the companies that were using that particular insecure email gateway for their business, they were now being susceptible to impersonation. So there is a talk to it. You guys can have a look, or I can also send you the talk once we are done with the presentation. But yes, if the email security protocols are not properly configured, they will welcome email spoofing attacks, wherein the email providers will be blind with whether the emails that they have received are from original sources or not. So these are like automation thing. And so for like multi-factor authentication bypasses, these are the tools that you can use for email spoofing. You can use social engineering toolkit. So I'm giving just a gist of like how a multi-factor authentication attack like actually happens in the real world. So how does a hacker is able to bypass even if you have on your multi-factor authentication? So for example, earlier what people used to do was they rely on username and passwords. Now due to data breaches, due to collection of info stealers, we know that there is a website called Have I Been Pawned. You guys can see whether your emails were breached into any of the data breaches, and you can also look at the kind of data that got breached. And in most of the cases, you can see like there is an exposure of username and passwords. So which means that now username and passwords could be breached. So there has to be a multi-level authentication, because username and passwords are not a single reliable way to authenticate a user, because my password could be leaked on some breaches, and that password can be used to access like any of my account that I don't know, like that I have never hardened that much. So these techniques now, because everybody is now much more aware into using multi-factor authentications, they have added a multi-layer. Like even if somebody knows username and password, I'll get a OTP, or I'll get uh, a message from the provider or on my authenticator app. And then once I log in using that authenticator password, then only my account can be opened in any of the insecure or unknown devices. So that is the first thing that most of us do now who knows about the email security. Now how hackers actually bypass that is, so let's suppose there is a victim. For example, uh, let's say Bob. So now Bob received an email, okay, and the hacker was able to bypass that part. Will come to your question. We'll come to your question. Uh, you can drop it on the message, and we can get back to you. So how? So let's suppose Bob got an email, right, saying that your access has been blocked, and now you need to re-log into your access. So how he is going to re-log in is that he's going to click on that particular email, and there will be an unverified or an unknown URL that will get opened into his uh, web browser. Okay, so this is the let's suppose this is the system of Bob. He entered, he clicked on that particular link. The first thing he will be asked is like, what is your username and password? Let's suppose he entered that username and password. This particular tool, which you can actually use like Evil Jinx or Morana for it, like you can set up MITM very easily. It is not a very much complex tool. For testing, you can definitely go for it. Once that username and password goes to that particular tool or framework, that gets automatically forwarded to, let's suppose if it is a phishing email for Gmail, it automatically gets forwarded to Gmail. This is the legit Gmail that we are talking to. So now once I enter the username and password, it goes through the attacker's infrastructure where they are able to see my username and password. Now they have forwarded that to original Gmail server. This is the point we need to keep in mind. Like whatever the communication that we are doing, it is actually getting done from the hacker's account to the real infrastructure. It is not like a static thing wherein if the username and password is wrong, the hacker has a capability to show the victim, like Bob will get a message that the email and password that you have written is wrong, because now they are not able to access those services, right? So everything is like it is working as transparent as possible now. So let's suppose within your Gmail you have actually used two-factor authentication. Now it sends up a 2FA code. Now you within your browser you have been asked to enter a two-factor authentication code. But since the original server knows where to send that particular two-factor authentication, now you have received that two-factor authentication on your mobile device. For example, if it is a SMS thing that you have subscribed to. Now, since in this particular screen, you would have been exposed to a um, an OTP page. Now, once you type that particular OTP that you have got into this page, it will take that two-factor authentication code and it will grant us session. Like it will grant you a successful session. By you, it means the hacker. Now, hacker has the successful session to it, which he can actually use to gain control of your account, and he will soon be able to like utilize it in multiple ways, and he can actually redirect you. And now you don't know, you are, since it was happening all in the back end, you have to you don't have any idea whether your reauthorization was done or not, and now you have been redirected to a different service, for example like a legit Gmail, and now you are all good because you don't knew uh, because from the perspective of Bob, he got an OTP, and that OTP was from Google. So he entered it. Everything was working as expected. So this is how like devastating multi-factor authentication bypass could be, because it is going to deceive you into thinking like you have got an OTP from a legit source, so everything is fine. But once you have a look at the MITM attack and the tools that we have discussed in the previous slide, like Evil Jinx, Murana, and Evil Proxy, you can see that all of it actually can be bypassed. Okay, so this is the tool, like whatever the attacks that we have discussed till now, this is the tool that we have developed. It's called Phish-E. It's an AI-driven sentimental analysis based phishing simulation platform. So it is like we have used artificial intelligence into gathering the insights of the human side of phishing, and then you can actually launch multiple attacks. Like two-factor authentication, you can see we already have like a module wherein you don't have to do anything, you don't have to write any template, and it is already there. You can just launch it. So this is the kind of automation that we did within our product, and the whole knowledge that you have seen before this slide, it was actually an outcome when we tried to devise Phish-E. When we were developing it, these were the challenges that we faced, be it anti-phishing gateways, be it sandboxes, be it Google safe browsing per se. So we have bypassed it all within that framework. And why have we done it? It is just to showcase that now these capabilities are also with hackers. There has to be a simulation, like there has to be a way to educate people. The thing that we are doing here is like we are educating people with awareness, with the latest kinds of techniques which are being used and abused by hackers. So the same thing is being done into like multiple, much more sophisticated attempts. And definitely there are a lot of features that will take some time for me to actually discuss in depth. But two-factor authentication is one that you can actually look at. Macro phishing is the other. Then we have QR-based phishing that I've already talked about. It is able to bypass like a secure email gateways that somebody has asked me question like how to bypass it. So QR-based phishing you can definitely try, and it has a very good success rate. Okay, so I don't think we have much time left for like a demo thing. I'll be posting a demo uh, soon, like in a day or two, wherein you can see all of these attempts. Like we were able to bypass multi-factor authentication, then we did email spoofing and Google Safe browsing. That will be shown on my LinkedIn. I'll share it on my LinkedIn. So that we can, if somebody wants, he can actually look at the demo things. So I think we are already past an hour. If somebody has any question, they can actually ask now.
Yeah, participants can post their questions into the chat box. Mr. Nikhil will be attending a few of the questions due to the limitation of time. So, Nikhil ji, you can take one or two questions if there are any.
Thank you, Prashant sir. Yes, guys. So let me read some of the questions.
There is a question how to investigate Outlook email.
Okay, so whenever you want to investigate any email, be it Outlook or be it any other email, so there are multiple ways of it. Uh, I can show some of it. Like, let me. So there are tools. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. So analyzer. So there are email analyzers. Like you can actually extract the header from any email that you have got, and you can actually paste it within this particular email header, and then it is going to tell like what are the further details that you can look at as far as this particular email is concerned. So be it any Outlook or be it any Gmail, you can actually extract an email header and then you can put it here and then you can analyze. And there are other tools as well. Uh, like you can go for any on any of the tools and it will help you to analyze headers. So definitely for investigations and all, you can look into email headers and then like trace the source of from where the email must have got. What are the legal consequences of phishing? So if that is not so so the first thing is you need to understand what kind of jurisdiction you are actually targeting. So for India, the things are very different from the legal point of view than things are from the perspective of US. So we have to look at all the jurisdiction to which the particular phishing attack was launched, and based upon the severity of the damage that it has caused, like there could be charges for impersonation, then there could be charges of illegally uh, using the subject or the technology, and based upon that there could be consequences. So such as within India, I think there is a if there is a breach to security using email like using system threats, there is a possibility of having a jail for 3 years. And this is in accordance to the IT Act that is there in India. But for other countries, it could be like much more worst or could be lenient as well. Okay, so somebody has asked. So so somebody has asked. Nabin has asked like there are tools which go for SOAR ingestion just to make sure that the alerts could be seen properly in quarantine. So definitely yes, the whole purpose of SOAR is to like ingest data and then make use of it to produce rules that can be applied on the organization level, and that can be used to actually quarantine those informations, quarantine those like URLs from the domain name resolution side, and then quarantining it into like multiple levels actually. Okay, how important is DLP in email security? Can you explain a bit? Okay, so it is very much important, but the thing is within the email security, like DLP looks for the data loss that could have happened, and most of the insider threats, they actually make use of emails to actually exfiltrate data, and DLPs can look into the network side of it, and they can actually check what are the data that has gone was transmitted, that was encrypted and all. So we can definitely use DLP, but the thing is so it has to be integrated within the browser, because with the introduction of browser security and Chrome per se, they do not allow such a visibility to DLPs. So DNS resolutions can be seen, but the kind of data that has been transmitted, there has to be a wholesome support towards the browser side. So I have already told about DMARC, right? So it's basically a policy that you can actually set, which helps your email security to make decisions based upon the policies that you have set. It can either deflect, quarantine, report that particular email that you have, your email security has got. So it is a way to actually notify your organization, like this is a particular email that could be suspicious or fishy.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nikhilji. Thank you so much. And
Thank you.
it's really a great session, and a lot of participants are there. I can see more than 550 participants are there. So this is a huge number, and I really appreciate everyone's time. And thanks to the real hero of today, Nikhil Srivastava, who has just
Yes.
share big insight at Center for Cybersecurity Studies and Research. We are always thankful to you for your time and patience. So a link is shared into the chat box. You can mark your attendance there. And also there is a group photo which we need to be taken. So all are requested to please start their camera so that we can take a group photo. Because you can unshare your screen, please.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. So that we can have a group photo, please. I request all to please start their camera so that we can have a group photo. Actually, there are a lot of participants, so maybe there is a little bit issue of bandwidth, I think.
Absolutely.
No issues. Okay, thank you so much, Nikhilji. Thank you so much for your time and patience. Once again, a big round of applause to you. And please be connected with the foundation, Secure Sphere Foundation, and keep enlighten the world with your visionary thoughts and with your great knowledge. And we would like to again welcome you in one of the most upcoming sessions we are going to plan in the next few months. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Prashant sir, for the opportunity, and thank you everyone for giving out the time. I'm dropping in my LinkedIn so that
Yeah,
anybody can.
please, all are requested to please follow Nikhilji for his insightful updates on his product Phish-E. And thank you, Nikhilji. Thank you so much. And all please requested to please mark their attendance on the link.
Okay, thank you guys. Thank you for your time. It was a wonderful session.